What's up, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. As far as Tesla's going, as you guys can tell, Tesla has a rising wedge-like pattern that's developing. And it does make me a little bit concerned because as Tesla's trying to climb higher, closer to the low 430s, I need to see us break and hold 442 and validate this and continue to push. If we can't do that, there's going to be a risk of Tesla kind of like pushing and then rejecting and returning to at least 418 or below. Also, there is that gap down at 393 that has not been filled yet. So you want to be very careful with Tesla. There is some news that came out that Tesla has been possibly filing a new patent for their new batteries, and these could once again help them perform better under high voltage and high temperature conditions. The patents basically suggest that there could be new solvents used for them to maintain better temperatures. They can maintain more stability under better temperatures, and then they can also have longer capacities, which is great news. So we'll see how this goes for them, but this has been some good news as well, at least for Tesla as a whole. On top of this, we also got initial jobless claims data. This declined by 6,000 for the week ending on November 22nd. And that's another important piece of news for our jobs numbers. That puts the total at about 216,000 as of the end of last week. On top of that, today is Friday, November 28th. There's not really anything significant coming out today besides the Fed balance sheet around 4:30 p.m. I'm not seeing much data. Also, keep in mind that today is going to be half a day of trading. Stock market futures were halted this morning after a data center cooling issue took place. It was affecting a lot of different exchange services, but I think much of the issues have been resolved. Now, today's half a day of trading. The stock market is going to be closing at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because it is the day after Thanksgiving, it's the day after a holiday, and that's what typically happens. So, usually, what happens the day after Thanksgiving is the stock market is slow, it's going to be very choppy. So, expect a lot of sideways, choppy price action, low volume, and not really much that's going on. Besides that, today's also Black Friday, so stay safe in case you guys are shopping. And there's not really much on the news, at least so far. I'm just not seeing anything too significant thus far. So with that being said, let's focus on Tesla. So, like I said before, I do see some weakness here. I do want to mention that 430 is going to be a tough resistance. We need to hold this to continue for like 435. If we don't break these levels, we might consolidate here. Then we could be dipping back down to 418 or even 415. And we'll see how it goes from there. But overall, we're in this consolidation, and the odds do favor us kind of returning back down towards these lower levels of this rising wedge. So we're in a rising wedge. We're getting tighter and tighter. And we're going to see if we turn back down towards 418 or so. But watch that very closely on Tesla as we're in a rising wedge. I do think we might try to climb a bit higher for now. We could be looking for the low 430s. But then, like I said before, we could be looking for a rejection off this wedge. There's still that gap at 393, which does not make me too comfortable yet with the current conditions. For SPY, we have a tendency of chopping between 682 and 685. We got lots of rejections there in the past. And there's also a gap to fill back down to like 678 or so. Actually, the gap would take us down to like 680, then there's 678 next. So I think that we could push for 682 to 685, could consolidate a little bit. Even if we come short of 682, we might just consolidate. And there's going to be a risk of SPY kind of like dipping to fill that gap and returning to like 680. But overall, the price action might not be that great. So be careful in case you're trading options. On the QQQ, the same thing is going on. We have 618 as our resistance. If we break this, we're going higher. If not, we could consolidate. And then we could turn back down to fill the gap at 615. If we break 618, we're looking for 620. But like I said before, even if we push a little bit higher, closer to 620, we could consolidate and then turn back down. On the IWM, we're looking a little bit more bullish. We're looking for resistance around this 248 area. If that breaks, we have 250 next, and then we have support at 247. We can push a bit here, and we're going to see if we consolidate and then turn back down. So give this the time it needs. On ES, we're looking a little bit more bullish. As you can tell, we're making higher lows over and over again. But we're going to see if we continue to push towards 68.50 or above, back up towards 68.75. I think we temporarily push on ES, but then the thing is, we do have a tendency of rejecting near 68.80. So even if we go a little bit higher on ES, we might consolidate, and then we could turn back down back down towards 6,800 in case we get a rejection. NQ is testing this resistance around 25,400, and then 25,400 to 25,500 are going to be resistances. We'll see if we consolidate and turn back down from there, so watch that very closely. Bitcoin is temporarily bullish, but there is tough resistance closer to 93,000, so I do think we push a little bit more, and we'll see if we reject. And then Tesla could try to get closer to 430, and we'll see if we reject back down to 418. For Nvda, we also have a nice looking consolidation here. If we break past 184, we're bullish. Otherwise, we're just going to likely chop around, and we could turn back down here in case we get a rejection. I think Nvidia is just trading sideways, at least for the time being. For Aapl, we're trading sideways like this. We have resistance around this 280 area and support down here at 275. I anticipate that we're going to consolidate here before we end up turning back down. So once again, I just see lots of sideways price action here, and we're going to see how it goes as time goes on. 280 is our resistance, and 275 is going to be our support. So we're going to see if we kind of turn back down like that. On AMD, we're basically forming a nice looking double bottom. We have this resistance at 218 and 223. We have support down here at 213. We could be looking for an attempt to push higher for like 218 or so. But I just want to mention that we're going to likely see a little consolidation between these EMAs at 223 and 218. And we will see if we reject from there or not. Right now, it may be resembling Nvda. Coinbase is looking a bit more bullish, though. As long as we're above 270, we're going to be favoring an attempt for 275 and then 280. On Amazon, as long as we hold above 230, we're going to be favoring a pushback up to 232 into 233. Meta is consolidating here. I think it likely continues to consolidate, but as time goes on, if we get a rejection, keep in mind we have rejected off 635 and then also around 641 many times. And as we consolidate, we could be turning back down towards 627.5. Google's making lower highs here, so we're going to see if we end up breaking past 325 or not. Otherwise, we could be dipping to 320, if not 315. And then Microsoft is also forming a triple bottom, and we have resistance at 489 and support at 482. So we could be looking for essentially the low 490s, and we'll see what happens as time goes on. On the VIX, we have sort of like a double bottom, but this may attempt to bounce a little bit. One thing that's happening is we like to bounce near 17 on the VIX. So if we bounce here, we could be returning to 18.8, which makes me suspect the market could be looking for like a pullback soon. So we're going to see if the market gets a rejection near here. We could retest 682 and consolidate on spine. If we reject, we could turn back down to 678, if not 675. And the QQQ, if we don't break 618 to 620, we could turn back down to like 613 and 610. Tesla, if it follows the trend, we're going to see if we could break the 430s. If it doesn't, it might consolidate and turn back down for essentially 418, right back down towards the support. So be careful at Tesla. There is a risk of rejection in the markets, but we will see how well we hold up. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Be prepared for today. It's going to be half a trading day as we close at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll see how well Tesla holds up. For now, we're going to see if this rising wedge leads to a rejection. Thank you for listening, guys, and peace out.